And so Marvin went in on June 1st, 1970, went to Hitsville, the Motown famous studios in Detroit, of course. He was still living in Detroit. This is before he moved to L.A. He's 31 years old. And he had this song. The genesis of this song is a whole nother episode and sort of story. Some other musicians that Marvin knew kind of pitched him this song, and then they all kind of worked it out together. Well, Marvin kind of adapted it for this album. But he went in to record this and had this idea. They didn't go and record the whole album. They just recorded this single. You might have heard of it. Let's go ahead and listen to a little bit.
Sure.
1970. Oh.
Mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way.
Those two lead vocals mixed together. Oh.
To bring some loving here today.
Oh, this little pre-chorus.
Picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me.
Strings here, yeah.
Oh my God. The arrangement on this, impeccable. The placement. Oh.
So you can see what's going on. What's going on? Yeah, what's going on?
Great moments in music history right now.
Oh man. Right off. I mean, the details on this. Woo. I mean, so this scatting that he was doing in there.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah, so I mean, this is, you know, does it get any more iconic than this in terms of like a record, the beginning of a record, you know?
Yeah.
And like the title track song. I mean, what a perfect, like you're setting the bar high. How are we going to come through on the greatest album of all time after this track? Like,
I mean, it's just stunning. It's just stunning. And can I nerd out a little bit? And maybe we can talk about this in the Nerd Nook for our Open Studio members in more depth. But what happens there in that interlude after the chorus is a musical term called modal interchange, right? And so it's key of E, I believe.
E major, yeah.
Yeah, key of E major. And so you have the what's going on, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on, and then the whoo, big A minor 9 chord, right?
Yeah, almost like a minor 11 maybe goes up there.
It's at least an A minor 9 because that's what the melody I think sits on in the string line. But that chord is borrowed from the key of E minor. So you have E major and you have this little interlude that goes to E minor, right? So you're in this sort of like, there are all these major 7 chords in there and minor 7 chords, like all 7th chords. And then it's all in this sort of E major reason. It's obviously he's speaking about something that's very heavy, but it hits you harder just when he goes,
and it's some foreshadowing to how the rest of the record is going to be too.
That A minor 9 chord hits me in the heart more than any lyric you could possibly say.
Yeah.
Like that tells you the story of the song more than anything. It's like this bit of like darkness that can happen, this like incredible mood that takes over in that chord and the string line and the orchestration. Absolutely perfect, absolutely beautiful. The whole arrangement, stunning, incredible move there.
Yeah, it's just perfection. And then even coming off of that 4, that A minor, then they go to the 5 sus,
right?
Which kind of brings it back a little bit to.
It's like an A major 7 over a B sus chord there that takes us back into this like light of E major for a little bit.
And I think that's the theme of this whole record in terms of the lyric, the harmony, like the crafting of this is between this. It never really goes super dark, I wouldn't say, even though it could, and that's part of the the huge genius of Marvin Gaye is that he was able to talk about these issues, poverty, the Vietnam War, in a very personal and specific way. You know, children not being educated, these things that, I mean, he's not using like metaphors and similes. He's talking about it.
Yeah.
And but it still has like a joy and a timelessness and a spirituality to it. A lot of spirituality on this record.
I think that sort of the major minor mix that we hear on this and a couple other of the tracks here on What's Going On, it's almost always predominantly major, except for a few instances. And I think that is his God is love, spirituality, his spiritual philosophy shining through in the chord changes, which I know sounds like unlikely, but I think it's incredibly powerful. And
Absolutely.
for me, it speaks, as much as I love the lyrics and as much as I resonate with how he's singing them, which I really want to talk about his voice in a minute, but the harmony of this album to me is like masterful in conveying the message of the album.
Absolutely. And when we talk about production and arranging, which Marvin did a huge amount, I mean, he produced this whole thing and he arranged it. We're not just talking about like the string arrangement or the horns and stuff. It's these kinds of things. Marvin either wrote or co-wrote every single song on this record.
Yeah.
He produced the whole thing. Yeah. He played a bunch. We're going to listen to a bunch of stuff. There's a bit of Stevie vibe on here. He's playing drums. He's playing piano.
Yeah.
And then, but these little arrangement things, like when we talk about going to the harmony and stuff, is like next level when you match that up with the feeling, with the lyric and stuff like that.
Well, and also it's the harmony on that bridge again. I wonder if you can cue up that chorus from the beginning.
Please.
But the string line itself, which starts on that B, right, which is the fifth of the key.
That's why I say it goes up to the 11th.
But it's the 9 of the A minor.
Right.
Becomes one of the most iconic melodies and a through line melodically through the entire album.
Right.
You know we've got to find a way. Picket lines and picket signs.
Here's the pre-chorus.
Yeah.
Don't punish me.
Little 2
to the 5.
and back and forth.
James Jamerson killing it on this.
You can see.
All of this in the E major range, one chord.
And E major is a very like happy major.
It's 6 chord, just like the verse, but twice as fast.
And you hear the strings.
And now go into E minor, the A minor 9.
The choir. Yeah.
This bit here.
Now to the 5 sus.
Forget it.
Yeah. So great. So great. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to get into, I got some interesting things for us to listen to on this, but I just want to say first, in terms of like the story for this, they recorded just this track. They didn't record the whole album. He had the concept and had already started writing a lot of the stuff. Berry Gordy heard it and it was just like, no, among other things, he said that scatting Dizzy Gillespie stuff, that old shit, nobody wants to hear that anymore.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did.
Oh my God.
Now, again, allegedly, because that's...
I guess Berry Gordy never met a You'll Hear It listener.
Yeah. And so, to the point of like, they didn't want to release this as a single. And they didn't want to greenlight making the record, this protest record. Wow. Yeah. And so there was a little bit of a standoff because like he's under contract, but you can't make him go in and, do something, but then he can't just release exactly what he wants. So there was a guy, and I apologize that I forgot to get his name in there, but it was another Motown executive that kind of saw the potential for this, and somehow behind, I mean, Motown was a big operation by 1970. Of course, yeah. This was not like the little startup that it was. He worked with Marvin to finish off this track, get it mixed and stuff, print up 100,000 copies of this bad boy, get it out to the record stores and to the radio.
Wait,
without Berry Gordy really
behind his back?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so they released it as a single.
Subversive.
Huge hit.
Incredible.
And to Berry Gordy's credit, after that happened, he was like, you know what? Go ahead and make your protest record. He said, my only stipulation is you have to have it done in 30 days. I want this thing coming out immediately to be able to piggyback on this amazing signal.
That's a Peter Martin move right there. That's a Peter Martin move to say like, all right, get it done in 3 weeks.
That's right.
Amazing.
At first, no, absolutely not. Well, so anyway, that was a cool thing and just showed Berry Gordy's genius to be able to pivot like that. And
Very
so
cool.
Really the record, I mean, the single came out in January of 1971, and then the whole record was recorded in 10 days, March 1st through 10th, the rest of it.
Nice.
But it all came out of kind of the proof of concept with this track. Okay, so when we talk, what I've got here is some interesting things on a couple tracks, but especially on this first track, what's going on. all the little details that you can hear, like at the beginning, you hear everybody talking. This is a bunch of the musicians, the Funk Brothers, as they're known, that they're talking. This, Eli Fontaine on alto sax. This is kind of an interesting story because much as Tuesday Heartbreak with Stevie Wonder and Dave Sanborn, he was just sort of warming up over that.
We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, on this too. That wasn't written in. And Marvin heard him do that. He's like, oh my God, I love that. We're keeping it. And Eli was just like, no, I was just messing around. He's like, no, we're using that. And so a lot of times arranging, it's not just about what you write down or say, play this. It's like having that ear and producing. I keep saying arranging, but arranging and production in this kind of a record are almost inseparable. And so like Marvin had such an ear for like these details and the different parts. How this rhythm, so that's kind of that initial melody, because it's before Marvin singing, right? But I mean, as soon as you hear that, you're like, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
So and it sets up what he's doing. And James Jamerson's.
Mother, there's too many of you.
And if you listen to everything that's happening rhythmically here, there's of course James Jamerson famously playing on this, allegedly inebriated. He's even
drunk. Yeah, well, that's the
because he just come from a gig or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, but on drums, Chet Forrest. Famously not one of the Funk Brothers.
I was going to say.
Yeah, this is somebody that Marvin had heard and brought in. Like Marvin was very like super involved with the personnel, who was going to play, how this was going to happen, and then like how the rhythm tracks were put together.
Can we just go back a little bit to that saxophone thing and back to the Stevie and David Sanborn thing? I just heard this quote this morning that I think captures this, which is that I think it was, I heard...
Did you hear it on the grapevine?
Yes, from the grapevine. The author George Saunders, maybe, but talking about how discovery is more potent than invention, right? So like we letting like some of these great geniuses that you think like there's so much of this album that's really thought through, and the details are really, really, you know, for lack of a better word, bespoke.
Yes, very.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think what Marvin, Stevie, I think what all great producers especially have in common is allowing for the room to discover.
Yes.
And the power that discovery has over invention, where it can feel very forced and a little bit, removed from the moment. But just being like, I think that's it. Just your first impression of it, even when you're just figuring it out.
Maybe it's even that combination, that ratio that they hit on this. Because some of this stuff, as you say, so specifically arranged
that's right.
and played. But then these other things, like when we get to the last track,
right.
The bass line, we have some, I don't know if it's a surprise for a lot of people, but that was not originally written. That came up, that Bob Babbitt, the bassist, came up with
the
that.
Inner City Blues.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that. But even the string arranging, from what I understand, was very much like Marvin giving some suggestions.
Yes.
And being at a piano and like, I'm sure he's not just coming up with that off the top of his head, but there are these just like melodies that will come.
Yes.
And him giving it to, I forget who the gentleman is.
David Van de Pitt.
Yeah.
So he was the arranger and the conductor of the orchestra. And I know that he talked about even feeling like Marvin was over-arranging this. He was just like, sometimes I was just transcribing what Marvin was singing or playing.
Great. That's great, though.
Yeah. But obviously, that was a collaboration there.
When things get too, you know what I mean? Like, let's keep the melodies strong.
Yes.
That's how I feel about making
music. And there's supposed to be some, like, people think, oh, this is one of the greatest records of all time. Everybody was in this. No, there was, like, strife at times, and there was, like, the head of the record company saying, no, we're not going to release it, and then someone putting the single. I mean, like, it doesn't all. It's the sausage being made is an adventure.
Strife can make for some good art. This podcast is we are like, at each other's throats the minute before we.
But
record.
come on, we're professionals, right? Okay, so let's break down. I was thinking I've got almost everything on
love it
separated out, but I was thinking kind of like the rhythm track because it seems so like James Jamerson and Chet Forrest, drums and bass, right?
Can I make a request?
Yes.
As we go through this whole.
Of course.
Album? Can we not rush it? I think our listeners will appreciate. We don't have a time constraint here, Peter.
Can we luxuriate?
let's luxuriate on this incredible work of art, please.
Well, you know what? We're going to start with something that seems very basic, but I think is integral to this whole album, almost every track, and that is the congas and/or bongos that are being played.
Of which we sometimes can't
sometimes
tell
we
the
don't know
difference.
which is what.
Yeah.
But this is Eddie Bongo Brown,
Well, it's gotta be
famously
bongos.
but we think it's congas. But this is sort of you'll recognize this, but to hear it separated out is pretty amazing, I think.
Those sound like kungas to me.
They do sound like congas. Well, his name's not Eddie Kunga Brown. So
I know.
obviously he was a master of both. I mean, the pattern is so basic in a way.
These are on What's Going On?
Yeah, this is What's Going On.
Yeah, but the feel is...
The feel is so great.
Spectacular.
And then the little details when he changes it up a little bit. And this is not a loop, youngins.
Well...
Okay, and then that's, of course, layered on top of Chet Forrest on drums. Oh, man, that bass drum sound? Come on. So very basic, right? But when you add that in with the James Jamerson line, which sounds even more basic than it does on the original track when you hear it by itself.
So good. Damn. It's the sound, man.
I know.
It's the sound of the bass.
Yeah. I forget what you call his finger. Is that hooking his finger? Oh,
Oof.
Those triplets.
We were talking about...
And as busy as he is, when he puts the space, famously busy, the spaces that he chooses so important too.
We were talking with our own bass guru here, Bob DeBoo, about
Yep.
the James Jamerson sound. Famously never changed his string. In fact, infamously, this is, again, maybe a little bit of legend,
Yeah.
but asked someone to weld his broken string back together because
Right.
it was like worn in just right, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we've got the piano, which I was shocked when I checked this out. I mean, it's guitar heavy in a way, but I never heard it as that. I heard it more keys. But this is Marvin on the piano. Fantastic pianist. And very simple lines. Bling, bling.
Really nice.
So, like, he really had an interesting ear, you know, obviously for vocal lines, for vocal backgrounds, but also for piano, like for single line stuff that was counterpoint to what he was singing with the melodies. Now,
melodies are so important on this album. I just want to point that out one more time, that this isn't just like a cookie cutter, like play some chords on the piano and play some chords on the guitar. Like everything of these interweaving melodies coming together between all the background vocals, the strings.
Yes.
Of course there are chords and things, but like there are so many melodies happening all at once. It's really, even like you mentioned, the double lead vocals.
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like two separate takes of a lead vocal.
Yep.
Two different concepts of a lead vocal put together. Incredible.
Yeah, they're great. And I'll just like, for folks that are like, wait, the melody, I thought that's what Marvin is singing.
Well.
But when we talk about counter melodies, it's just, I know it sounds counter to it, but it's just something else that's happening at the same time, like that piano line. We're going to go back to the main track here. So obviously you've got the melody of the background vocals.
Glockenspiel,
Yes.
the background vocals.
There's some vibes on here.
Brother, 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 there's far too many of you.
There's a lot of melodies happening on this.
You know we've got to find
Vibes.
Vibes melody. We heard a similar thing.
to bring some loving here today.
Oh, so good. We heard a similar thing on Talking Book,
Yeah.
where Stevie's using that Tonto synthesizer
Yes.
system, which was mostly monophonic and using all of these monophonic lines to weave together this tapestry of voices. So
Yes.
it's an incredible tool and one that if you make music, you should try.
That's right, right. Okay, so some other things kind of on the rhythm side. Well, since we were just listening to it, the vibes, Jack Brokensha. This is when it gets to the A minor part.
A minor 9. Clusters in there.
Yeah, you barely hear that.
Yeah.
But that's again the arranging, but it's everything put together. It makes that, and then the way it's mixed. On the rhythm side too, we listen to the bongos, the drums, but there's a really important part, the box drum, which is I think it's almost the same, if not exactly the same as a cajon. Cajon?
Say again?
Cajon with a J, but it's cajon. Marvin is playing it on this and some other tracks too. But when you hear it, I think you're gonna feel what a big part of this whole apparatus it is. Oh.
There's no snares on it, like
No.
a cajon usually has.
Oh, cajon has snares?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like a box. I think you sit on it, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
Yeah, but
Sounds cool.
that's such a big part of that combined with the regular drums.
Interesting. I don't know if I've heard that.
It's almost hard to separate them, But then when you hear it all together, it's like,
Can you hear Can you play the main track again? Let me
Yeah.
see if I can hear that box drum.
cat, cat.
Mother, there's too many of you.
It really sounds like it's part of the drum set,
Yeah, I can't really pick it out on its own.
There's far too many.
You can kind of hear it in there. Check it.
You know we've got to find
Then you hear the vibes, after you start to hear them.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Very cool, Pete.
Yeah. And then the background vocals. There's a lot of background vocals, almost a choral-like effect. With Marvin on top.
Is that all Marvin?
I think it is. I should know that, but
I don't know. I
Yeah,
bet that's
that's
more
gotta be.
than one person
Yeah.
in a room.
got the snaps.
Yeah.
brother, what's going on?
Woo!
What's going on?
I don't know. That
What's
sounds like
going
Marvin.
on? What's going on?
That's a little bit of mixed in with that.
Hey, Bobby, what's going on?
That's the same with all the musicians recording it. It's just so. And that's,
Amazing.
Yeah. And so that's the background vocals. The lead vocals, which you mentioned a second ago, what was common would the lead vocalist, Marvin Gaye in this case, would take several passes at it over the rhythm track or whatever had been built up. But on this record, he would sing a lot of these tunes, the melodies, very differently, almost like he hadn't quite decided on exactly how it was going to come out on several of these tracks, what the final version was going to be. And so he recorded two vocal versions of this, at least two, and then something got with the mixing engineers, with the recording engineers, got mixed up, and he was like, let me hear both of those. And I think Marvin meant he wanted to hear them each and choose between it. But the engineer put them both together, and then Marvin heard that, and he's like, oh, that's it.
Really?
And so it's
That's what I'm saying, man. Discovery.
it's discovery.
Yeah.
And so then they mixed it with that. So this is lead vocal 1,
Mother,
which is the one most people are going to be accustomed
there's
to.
too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying.
Oh, man, his voice.
You know we've got to find a way
His intonation.
to bring some loving here today.
And the range of the motion
Father,
from just tender to pushing.
we don't need to.
So that's lead vocal
escalate.
1. Very much the way we know the melody. Check out vocal 2.
Oh, mother, there's too many of you crying.
And this wasn't going to be like a harmony line. This
No,
is
this is just a
another
different
Brother,
vocal. Another way that he heard the melody.
There's too many of you dying.
What a voice.
You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today.
Man, so can we spend a couple minutes talking about
Yes.
his voice and Marvin Gaye as a singer for a minute? Because I feel like, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like one of the things that make the difference between like a good musician, a good artist, and a great artist is their ability to be vulnerable with their instrument. You know what I mean? I'm talking about Charlie Parker. I'm talking about Miles Davis. I'm talking about Marvin Gaye. I'm talking about Michael Jackson. I'm talking about Kurt Cobain. You know what I mean? I'm talking about all of these Prince, all of these incredible artists that wear their heart on their T-Swift. I'm talking about all the Chappell Roan, all these incredible artists that wear their heart on their sleeve, and within the first note that they sing or play, you know exactly how they feel about the line. Then you know exactly how they're feeling about this, and it's projected to you. It's like a great actor that can seemingly do nothing but look at the table, and they're giving you context of the emotions that are happening in the scene. And I think Marvin Gaye is maybe the greatest at this. He wears his heart on this. Just when we were hearing him talking in that interview in the beginning of this episode, you can hear it in his speaking voice. Yeah, like there's nothing, seemingly nothing that he's hiding. He can't. Like it just comes out in the way he expresses himself, and I think it's a real God-given gift because it's just so natural for him. Yeah, every line he sings, you feel. Every note that he sings feels like the emotion he's trying to project. It's a true master at that. Yes. Truly. I mean, really put him in there with Miles as far as like his ability to do that. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, as you were describing that so eloquently, I was thinking, you know, that vulnerability, that wearing your heart on your sleeve, that direct connection with your instrument, right? And how you then transmit that and connect with the audience. The other person I was thinking of is Billie Holiday, that had that in her voice. Like Marvin Gaye, Billie Holiday, and the others we mentioned too. But like that might be the apex moment for vulnerability of the voice, you know. And it's a stunning thing, really.
It truly is.
Yeah, and I think the reason that this record, even above all possibly of Marvin's other really interesting and wonderful recordings, like everything kind of got dialed in, like, because he was so involved with the production of everything, the arranging, you know, these piano lines, everything.
This was a passion project.
It was a passion project, yeah. And then so that must have just placed his voice within that so beautifully, you know.
Well, also he's in a sweet spot in his career. I mean, he is at mastery level. Yeah, like you said, he's 31. He's been doing it for a while at the highest level, working with the best people. Yeah, and just his musical chops are unmatched right now. Yeah, it's pretty great.
So I had another little vocal thing I just love because talking about this sounds like Dizzy Gillespie scatting, but this is a just killing little vocal line that
talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Woo, 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 woo.
Jeez.
Right on, baby.
Man.
Right on. Ah, yeah. Woo. Right on, baby. Right on. Ah, yeah.
To the 5.
Woo.
And then just his instrument itself has this softness to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has this sort of like round edges. Yeah. Even when he gets gruff with the what's going on and like growls a little bit, there's still a tenderness to the voice itself. It's really special.
And then his rhythmic attenuation, and then like how it layers over the harmony and
intonation spot. It's incredible.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's some amazing vocalists that you pull it apart like this and you hear it, you're like,
not quite.
You're like, oh, it's not. I mean, like that's actually stunning that he's nailing those like thirds and going up to the minor 9, like just the way he's doing it with that kind of thing.
And then you layer that on top of this brilliant music, this brilliant song that he wrote, these incredibly poignant lyrics for the time, and you get maybe the greatest album in history, according to some folks.
Talking about layering, I think there's one part that we haven't included yet I think we've got pretty much everything else already, and this might be a part that's kind of interesting to you.
I love this.
Really?
Yeah, I love this.
Oh. Single line strings, octaves.
Probably. Oh! Chord.
That's the A minor. And that's going back to the second verse. I mean, the string stuff on this, we could sit here and geek out on this and listen to this all day. But I can tell you, so it's David Van de Pitt, who was the conductor and arranger on this. A really cool thing was this was all members of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and including the concertmaster, the legendary concertmaster, Gordon Staple. Like what you just heard there, in some ways, it's as an arranger, and like both you and I have done string arrangement quite a bit. Some of that's relatively simple to like figure out and to understand what it is. But I can tell you that the level of playing on this, like you can tell it on the track with everything, but when you break it apart, it's kind of like Marvin's voice. It's like you're like, what? Like there's that level of like, I don't even want to say professionalism because that doesn't quite hit it. Just like great artists, like you hear. That's 5 first violins, 4 second violins, 4 violas, 3 cellos, and just 1 bass. It's not like a huge orchestra. It sounds like it, but you can hear the individuals playing. And a special shout out to Richard Margitza on violin, whose son, Rick Margitza, some of you may know, I've known for years from when I first went to New Orleans, was a great saxophonist, played with Miles Davis at the end of his career. He's been living in Paris. He used to record from Blue Note Records. That was his dad on violin, legendary member of the DSO, which was still is one of the great orchestras in the world. So I love that they didn't cut corners. They didn't get they went right to the A team in town.
That string section is amazing. You said it was 5,
4, 4, 3, 1.
So 5 first, 4 seconds, 4 violas, 3 celli, and 1 bass. So that bass is so important.
Yes.
When they hit that chord, that A minor 9 chord.
Yeah.
Like this actually changed my string arranging, and we're about to do an episode on Birth of the Cool as well, which has, obviously a bass player in the rhythm section and a tuba.
Yeah.
This album obviously has, you got James Jamerson playing the electric bass, but you have an acoustic bass.
Yeah.
If you are writing for an ensemble.
With bow.
If you're writing for an ensemble, do not skimp on the low end of the ensemble. Just that one tuba, that one bass player, a tuba in the winds or whatever, bass clarinet or contrabassoon. Or if you're doing strings, like add a string bass to that ensemble. That changed everything for me as an arranger, because when I started, like, when you first start out, you're like, well, we don't need the bass and the strings because you got a bass.
You're not going to hear it, or it's going to be too much down there.
But it just fills out the chord in a way that you don't get otherwise. And so I love this instrumentation because that's just enough musicians to make it sound incredibly full. And I think the arranging itself is spectacular. All the octaves, obviously with the violins on the top, and probably the viola and the cello,
like an octave down,
octave down, and then like they hit that chord. Oh man,
yeah. I mean, it's like details, but it's execution. You know what I mean? It's the vibe. I mean, you can hear it, and I think all these elements, like what makes this track great, it's all that.
Yeah.
It's everything starting from the simplest. Like you don't have that, the thing doesn't work. You don't have obviously that. But also, like, how do you even like think about combining these things, and then it becomes, Let's go to that part with since you gave us the gift of time, right? We're gonna go to that bridge, or what do you call that? The A minor, the interlude, yeah. When the strings. So the strings come in on
the pre-chorus here.
Yeah, that's the first time they're in. And they're pretty far back in the mix still, right? Now a little more.
So you can see what's going on.
That was all that single line stuff we heard. Oh, sorry. Woo. Oh man, I killed the vibe.
Killed the vibe.
That was a little foreshadowing. Don't worry. Sorry. Oh, I got back to it.
So good, man. Those little
yeah.
Yeah. Also, don't sleep when you're doing horns. You're doing horns and you're doing strings in a big arrangement.
Yeah.
That single note line, mixing up single note lines with chords.
I mean, think about all and then the mix. We got to talk about the mix too, because when you get all this great stuff, and well, that's that Dizzy Gillespie jazz again.
Nobody wants that, right?
But the mix, for those that don't nerd out on this stuff but love this album, the mix just means how the shit sounds, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sound good or not.
It's like that's the end result of a great mix, we should say. But the mix is like where you're placing. Like we heard those strings, it seems like, all this dynamics and stuff, but within the mix, they're brought down until they're not, at different times. And so making that decision, like where does the bass lie? Where does of course Marvin's main vocal, but then the vocal 2 is a little below. And then not only volume, but your right, your left, in the center.
Absolutely.
A lot of decisions.
A lot of good decisions. Especially
were made
with an
on
album this dense. Really a lot to do.
And apparently they even, like with the strings, they went back and remixed some of this stuff because the quality control department at Motown was like, we want a better mix on the string. And they went to the studio in LA and they were like, we're going to pay for another. I mean, same session, same record. They just wanted to place it differently.
Again, that's what we do here on this podcast. Sometimes I'll say a line and I'll be like, no, let's redo it. Remix that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, man, we could sit here on this first track forever, but I don't even know if there's 9 tracks on this album. And then, so they started recording the rest of the record in January. No, January is when 71 is when What's Going On came out, just as a single. It was #1 soul single and #2 on the pop charts, on the Hot 100. So that's when Berry Gordy was like, okay, let's make the whole album. He said 30 days he wanted it done, and they did it. March 1st through 10th. It was released on May 21st. That's what I'm talking about. They used to be like efficient about their shit back there, man.
Peter loves that.
It's like, get that shit out. And then it became the #1 on Rolling Stone's Greatest 500 albums. So it turns out you can rush greatness.
30, 40 years later.
Yeah.